Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Innovators Mindset. I have Bob Webster here. He's a doctor and really has a really powerful story. Bob, thanks for doing this on short notice. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So talk to me about the issue you saw. What did you see out in the marketplace? What did you try to pitch in and jump in and help with?
Yeah, so I think my progression is probably similar to many people out there, where initially the coronavirus was something over in China we weren't too worried about. And then somewhere along the way for all of us, you got worried about it. And
Yeah.
for me, that time was a phone call that I got. So I'm an engineer. I work at Vanderbilt. I'm a professor. I work with doctors. So I got a call from one of the doctor friends of mine who said, hey, this is a big deal, and we are concerned that we may run out of ventilators. We may have people dying because of it right here at Vanderbilt. And, this is what's happening in Italy. This is why it's really bad in Italy. They don't have enough ventilators. What can we do? I was like, well, what the heck is a ventilator? I've never seen one, built one, thought about it at all. So that's where it started for me.
Yeah. And so giving a little bit of your background, what is your area of expertise, and how did you approach this challenge?
Yeah, I'm a surgical robotics engineer. So, I'm working in the mechanical engineering department at Vanderbilt, but my research is all on robotics and robotics applied to surgery. So I'm working every day with doctors, and we're looking at how they do surgery. We watch in the operating room, and then we talk to them afterwards. And together we come up with ideas for how we can apply new technologies to make things, less invasive, smaller incisions into the body, more accurate through use of direct sensing or medical image data. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so you've been building tools and building machines and robots for physicians to treat patients for a long time.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And so how did you attempt to solve this ventilator challenge?
Yeah, so first I was like, well, I got to understand what the heck a ventilator is, and maybe talk to some of the surgeons who treat, or physicians who treat these patients who have COVID, who are lung doctors, who fortunately, the one who called me initially was a urologic surgeon, so not even in the same specialty. So he didn't even know everything about ventilators. He knew enough to know how needed they were. So quickly got on board another two different doctors who specialize in pulmonary. And they're people that one of them I'd worked with a little bit in the past, and one I had never met before. And so that was great to have the, direct interaction with people who were treating COVID patients at the same time.
Yeah, this is what I really needed to do. Like, this is the features in it.
And more importantly, what is the minimum I needed to do to save a life if we run out? Because our goal from the start was not to recreate the clinical ventilators, because that's a really complicated job that we already have good engineering designs for that, right? So we didn't want to do that. We wanted to meet the immediate pandemic need of, if we run out, what do we do?
Yeah.
So that was our challenge from the beginning.
Okay. And so talk to me about the time frame. How did you pull people together and resources together to get a first attempt?
Yeah, so it pulled together initially there was another faculty member at Vanderbilt who had a napkin sketch for a ventilator, and not really had quite the urgency to start actually building it until I got this call from a doctor, and then we all felt the urgency. So quickly got him on board. So he had a napkin sketch, then got a couple of my PhD students who are very talented with various, electronics and everything, got them on board. And that team, a smaller group of people, probably about 5 people, really worked together basically night and day. All day, every day for about a month to get this from not even knowing what a ventilator was to something that had been fully tested on an animal, to where the doctors said, hey, if I ran out today, I would put this on a person right now.
Yeah.
So whirlwind project.
About, usually when you start off, there's a lot of excitement, but you might hit a hurdle or hit like a challenge. Talk about something that you ran into in the early part as you were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, at the very beginning, the hardest part was sensing. So we initially we started out with the concept of, let's use a windshield wiper motor from a car as the workhorse engine inside this thing. We built everything around that because we figured you can get those anywhere in the world. Yeah. So this could be put together, even in developing world places.
Yeah.
So we started from that, but then the idea was, what do we have to sense? We quickly figured out you got to sense pressure at the mouth. So you need to know how hard are you pushing in? How hard is the lung pushing back on you? And it was like, what kind of pressure sensor can we use? What can we buy even? It was COVID, lockdown, right? It was hard to source things, hard to get, what would normally be regular engineering components. So we started out thinking we would do a water manometer, which is a U-shaped set of tubes which have water in both sides, and you put pressure on one side and you can see the water go up and down on the other side, which would be a nice low-cost, solution, but very finicky, a little bit hard to work with. So ultimately, we ended up going with an electronic sensor. But that was probably the biggest hurdle at the beginning, is what kind of sensor we're going to use? How can we get it?
Yeah. Okay. And tell me about the results. Do you have a working ventilator now?
We do. Yeah, we actually built 100 of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got.
So in a month, you went from really no much experience, not really knowing exactly how a ventilator worked, to building 100 that are ready to go.
That's right. They're sitting over.
Are they all at Vanderbilt? Are they spread around? How are you thinking about deploying them?
Yeah, they're all at Vanderbilt. I mean, fortunately, as time has played out, we've seen that we've not run out in Tennessee.
Right.
We're not even close to running out in Tennessee. Thank God. I mean, these are, we don't want that to, these are last resort kind of devices. Yeah. So what we did from the beginning is we said, hey, the great thing about this design is it can be built locally. If you have a wood shop and you have a soldering iron and you know how to use them, like anyone can build this. And so we put all our plans online. It's open source, to where if there's a flare up of COVID anywhere in the world, you ought to be able to get the component. We limited ourselves to very readily available components. You ought to be able to, just local people who want to help out their doctor should be able to build one of these and take it to the hospital.
Yeah, like a friend of mine this morning was talking about, he's really worried about India. I guess India is starting to get more and more. And so developing countries like that, they could pull these designs off the website and quickly, in a matter of weeks, put together a series of ventilators.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent. And so talking about the process, and do you think there's going to be an application for this kind of innovation in healthcare in the future? Like, can we get more and more innovation into the practice of medicine?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's what I do on an everyday basis in my research. So I'm working side by side with doctors. They're in my lab, every week, multiple days a week. I'm in the OR. My students are in the OR watching what they do. So it's a tight team, and that's really I think the only way to make quick progress in medical devices, because the doctors don't have a library in their head of what technologies are even out there. So they know the problems, but they don't know any of the solutions to be able to fit those pieces together. And we as engineers know about all the various technologies, but we have no idea how the process goes down in the operating room. So
it's almost like the cross-pollination of those things really makes the magic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks for doing this, Bob. Where is there a website or something that people can go to learn more about it?
Yeah, it's vandyvents.com. Vandy like Vanderbilt, V-A-N-D-Y, vents.com.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing the stories. Exciting stuff. I can't believe you put it together so quickly. It's really impressive.
Yeah, my pleasure. I can't believe we put it together so quickly. I mean, looking back, it was such a whirlwind. Never been part of a project that was this fast. We did in a month what would normally be a couple of years of work.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks. I really appreciate you sharing it.
My pleasure.